Hey guys, welcome to You Inside You. I have a very special treat for you guys today. Jana Niksa is the authentic sales guru who is here to speak with me today. She's become a friend of mine. She is inspiring. And for those of you who know me, I am always about matching energy. I'm always about being with uplifting people, creating connection, being with authentic people, and that's exactly what Jana is. So let me introduce her. Jana is an international best-selling author, speaker, founder of High Ticket Clients and Repeat, and the creator of Six Figure Blueprint. Early on in her career, she struggled with pushy sales approach, and she decided to break that rule. And she is now considered the master of authentic selling and the conversion queen. So I am so excited to have her mix the woo and the do, and welcome the conversion queen, Jana Niksa. Yay!
Hello, how are you, Trine?
I am so good. I'm excited to speak to you today because my platform is all about finding the you inside you and learning about people's journey to finding themselves. And you literally have authentic in your title, authentic sales coach. So, on this journey of self-awakening and personal growth, it can be exciting and quite bumpy. So, tell me a little bit about yourself, your journey, and what inspired you to become who you are today.
Well, there's a few different iterations of kind of how this, like you said, it's like an onion, right? And it still continues to unfold. But yes, the authentic sales coach. How could you not talk about authenticity and not talk to the authentic sales coach, right? I actually came up with that title before authenticity was such a thing, really. It just felt right to me to describe an entirely different way to sell. But it means so much more to me now because it really is so much of what I represent in my brand, who I am as a person. It's kind of funny. Like, I know a lot of people talk about wearing different faces and having different versions. And I guess to a degree, maybe I do, but truly, like who I am here and who I am at the dinner table, it's not really very different. I've really get all teary eyed. Like, began a journey of loving myself about 10 years ago. But I'll even back up from there because, we were talking before the show that you're from, or not from, but you live in Florida. And, this is kind of where that authentic sales approach was born. And then I can talk more about authentic Jana. So here I am in Southwest Florida. My territory was Port Charlotte, Florida. So I covered like Fort Myers to Sarasota. So I'm sure you know that area. And I was 22. And it was like I was the only young person for about, I don't know, 50 miles. Like Tampa was cool, or Miami. Other than that, we were pretty well screwed. But anyway, that's beside the point. The point is, especially in sales, they were like, this is what you're going to say. This is how you're going to say it. And if they give this objection, then you say this. And if they say this, and just, A, B, C, always be closing. And so here I am with my quote unquote dream job. And I'm like, okay, like, got to go do the thing and just be this person that I'm not. And it failed miserably for me. And so just in case there are people out there that are like, oh, I could never be a salesperson, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I get it. I was in sales for over 2 decades and I'm not a salesperson, right? It's just, there's one approach that we think is kind of the way to do it, but it's not. But what I ended up doing is putting an enormous amount of pressure on myself to succeed and to get it right. And what ended up happening was a hurricane. This was in 2004. A hurricane hit my territory. It was Hurricane Charlie. It came right square up the middle of my territory. And it knocked out a lot of my clients' offices, at least temporarily.
Wow.
Some of them had to move. Some of them were in trailers. Needless to say, me going in there with my all about me sales approach was not going to fly.
Mm.
And so this was really my first that I can remember in my adult life of like giving that's a new word, myself permission to
Mm.
be me.
Yeah.
And because now all the pressure was off, right? Like, of course, I'm not going to meet quota. Of course, they can't fire me. Of course, we're in a war zone practically at this point. Like, and so the pressure was off, and I just got to show up as me.
Mm.
And it was really interesting when I stopped caring about my quota and all of the things and the metrics and how many people I'm supposed to see and all that stuff. And I know we do this in our business too, right? And just showed up to serve,
Mm.
things shifted drastically for me. And so
Mm.
that was like the really my first moment of, wow, like there's really something to this. Just being who you are and like following your intuition.
Mm.
And even, it's scary. I mean, here I am 22 years old and I'm telling a Fortune 500 company that I'm not going to do it the way that they've spent millions and millions of dollars learning is the way. And
Yeah.
so, when I look back on that version of me, I'm like really proud of her for like
Mm.
standing on her own 2 feet at that point. And so, kind of flash forward over the course of my 20-year plus sales career, I took that approach with me.
Mm.
And so it didn't really matter what company I was at or where I was selling, all the excuses everybody uses. When I led in this way, it really served me.
Mm.
Now, that was on a professional note. So this is the multi-layered thing, right? So it really served me there. So much so that I found myself back in about 2014. I just had my second child. And I was really very unhappy. And I
Mm.
didn't know it. I had checked all the boxes at this point. I had gotten the good, done well in school, got into the good college, got the sales job, figured that out, so much so that I had a lot of free time.
Mm.
Turns out when you're good at sales, you don't have to be out like just hitting the pavement all the time. So then I got married and I had my first child and I had my second one because it was really important to me that I had two, at least because I was an only child.
Yeah.
And for the first time in my life, I like took my real first breath. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get emotional. First breath. And I realized I was like, now what?
Yeah.
And it really hit me hard because like I said, I had a lot of time.
Mm.
It was lovely as a new mom,
Yeah.
but also started really bringing up a lot of questions and
Mm.
really provoked an awakening.
Mm.
And, really what escalated this, and I'm so grateful to this day. And I can't believe I speak so openly about it because at the time it was so shameful. Like I was drinking too much.
Yeah.
I was coming home from my job. I didn't really know how to unwind.
Mm.
I just didn't know how to navigate this, like not striving anymore.
Mm. Mm.
And I couldn't channel it, maybe like a lot of moms, like into just the kids, there was like a gaping hole
Yeah.
inside me. And so I started to really pay attention to that. And I knew after some time of trying to pretend like it wasn't a problem that it was. And so I got help. And along with that help was meditation
Mm.
and yoga.
Mm.
And next thing I know, I'm on this massive healing journey.
Mm.
Just cracked open, started reading anything that had to do with spirituality I could get my hands on, any personal development, any, thoughts create our reality. What, I just like
Right.
cracked open to this entirely new world.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize when I came into this space as a coach how much work I had done. I knew
Mm.
I was different than everybody in corporate for the most part. Like people were just, burp, 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 going through their day. And I had gotten off that hamster wheel. Like I had broke the program.
Mhm.
And of course, so this whole terrible thing that happened led me to waking up. It led
Mm.
me to my health and it led me to leaving corporate altogether and starting my own business, which I never would have done.
Wow.
And so to really answer, to kind of give you, just to tie this one up with a bow, like, it is my authenticity
Yeah.
and tapping into that inner voice and really truly surrendering and trusting that
Mm.
that has led me to this conversation here today.
Oh, wow. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're
It
welcome.
is so inspiring to hear about those layers and those steps that we as women and humans go through from, mastering certain aspects of our life, right? And listening to that inner voice inside of ourselves to say, this doesn't really work for me.
Mhm.
I was in a relationship where I kind of had this feeling that, this is not really working for me. I ended up in the US from Denmark and have been living here for 20 years. And I never thought that I ever would be and living in another country. There's so many things we don't know, but we follow that little voice and guides us and allow it to lead to that authentic self. And you mentioned something about, your journey to self-love and really understanding self-love. And that's something that I talk about a lot. I think my icon on Facebook was like self-love for 10 years straight, just because I wanted to find the key. Like, what did that look like? I read something about, if your parents don't love themselves, how are they going to teach you?
Mhm.
And that was like, oh my gosh. Like, I know for a fact that my parents didn't learn how to love themselves. So does that mean I don't love myself? Maybe I don't. You're right. I do not. Maybe that's why I'm not so happy. So I went on this journey and figuring out, what does that look like? So what did self-love look like for you? And what does that journey look like?
Gosh. Well, I think it really did it began with that cracking open
Yeah.
and being with myself. Because
Mm.
up until that point in my life, like, my heart is so open. I get so emotional. But
Mm.
up until that point, like, I never wanted to be alone.
Yeah.
Like, I was always, in my 20s, I was out and about,
Yeah.
and then it came to abrupt halt in my 30s when I had kids. And so it really became about me getting to know myself.
Mm.
And because I'd done all the things on the outside, I'd checked all the boxes,
Mm.
and there was nowhere else to turn but within. And so self-love began for me with mirror work, and like really paying attention to that person that's in the mirror,
Mm.
and just having that loving, I love you, like looking at yourself in the mirror was. And I still do it to this day.
Mm.
And it really, like, I would, if you haven't, I don't know if that's something you talk to your audience about, but I would encourage anybody that's wanting to discover more is look at yourself in the mirror. Louise Hay is who really popularized this. I don't know where she got it from or if she just pulled it out of the collective, but looking at yourself in the mirror and just saying, I love you.
Yeah.
And so I will say this, though, for a lot of my clients, that can be even difficult at first.
Oh, yeah.
And so they say, I say, we'll say things like, I'm learning to love you.
Mm.
And so, it began with some of those sorts of things. And, meditation was a beast because it is at first for almost everybody I've ever talked to. It's like learning to walk,
Yes.
and
We haven't learned how to do these things, right?
well, exactly. And, one of the first things I got certified in when I was still in sales and had this free time. And I was like, I'll be a meditation. I became a meditation. I didn't do the meditation coaching, but I certified as a meditation coach, which is really more than just teaching meditation or leading meditations. But I'll leave that alone for now. But what I realized when I would tell people that, I was doing that, oh, I tried meditation. Like, oh, I couldn't. Yeah, like it didn't work for me. And I'm like, do you understand? Like, that's like you telling me like, yeah, I tried to run a marathon the other day and I just wouldn't work for me.
Right.
Like it's a muscle
Yeah.
like everything else. And
Yeah.
the monkey mind that we have the ego, the fear-based program that we run on default. We don't get to see it. And until we start meditating, most of the time, to cultivate that awareness. And it's going to do everything in its power to not have you see it. Because when you see it, you can't unsee it. And then you see how it does what it does to keep you where you are.
Yeah.
And so really, to answer your question, I think my first layer of self-love was undoing that egoic programming.
Yeah. Yeah.
And breaking free from thought
It
all
is,
the time.
yeah, it's such a humbling experience, right? To recognize that there's this other part of ourselves that we've listened to since we were little,
Yeah.
and be like, why has nobody ever told me about this?
Right?
Right? I feel cheated out by society. My parents didn't tell me. The gift from my mom was really the self-help books. And Louise Hay was one of my first Bibles, and learned that mirror work. Actually, I ignored the mirror work probably the first 10 years.
Really?
And then I realized I needed to take it to the next level, and intuitively started doing the mirror work. And I love that you brought that up, because it's probably the most like uncomfortable, weird things. And also talking back to your ego, like all of this is just so uncomfortable and so weird, because you bring up marathon, right? So running a marathon, I think most people, at least in this culture, kind of has an idea of what that might look like, right?
And it's not going to be pretty.
Right. You have to train a lot. You have to be consistent. You might have a certain diet, right? And you get to this stamina of maybe enduring a marathon.
Yeah.
But understanding self-love and understanding true self-awareness, being free of your ego, living on a conscious level of being able to discern between your true voice and ego, like nobody has any concept of what that looks like unless you have been taught by a coach or a therapist, or watching these podcasts or listening to teachings like this, because it's just not something that's common speech. It's not something culture talks about. We don't talk about our emotions. I'm sure most sales teams out there are still running on lower emotional intelligence, because it is more about kind of the principles, and you should never, talk about your personal life or be who you are, right? Because no, you got to put on that persona. And so I love how you started with saying that I may wear, different roles, but I'm always me. Like I always show up, whether I'm a mom or a coach or, a partner or anything like that. And I mean, that's why you're here with me today, because it's just so obvious that that's how you show up with everybody that you're around.
Well, that is like one of the biggest compliments. So thank you. I received that. And also, when you do sort of, and this is, decade in the making. So it is a process of unfolding that I don't think we ever like, I'm done. Check, it's
Yeah.
not like that. It's in the constant, like, how much more can I align with my higher self? Like, how much more can I bring that into each and everything I do? How much can I infuse that into each and every conversation that I have? How much can I surrender and get out of the way? And there was something else I was going to say about it that really made more sense. And to anyone that's like, there are different personas. I had them too. That's how I know I don't anymore. For the most part, like I had the work Jana, and the friend Jana, and the party Jana, and the daughter Jana, and now they're very much more like I've called them all home, and they've all merged. And so that's where there's not as much fluctuation. And then you notice, like I'll give you a funny example. Can I just give you like a crazy ridiculous example because I think
Sure.
sometimes spiritual people talk like they never get sucked in to the you know what anymore. Well, my daughter did cheer last year and I cheered. And I know all about those cheer moms and all this cheer, so it really brought out, like, it was like old Jana has to come out. Like old
Mm,
Jana has to go to these practices and be around these
yeah.
ladies and navigate their persona with my
Mm,
own persona.
mm,
And I didn't know how else to navigate it, which was really interesting to watch me, as authentic as I am in that specific situation. I did not feel safe being open-hearted, being truthful, like wearing my heart on my sleeve. Like I know how these ladies roll.
yeah.
It's like, and I can do that too. Come on, old
Mm,
ego Jana, let's go. And I did. Like I remember even telling one of my coaches, I was like, I have to go to a game now. I'm gonna go put on my game face. Like because I really felt it. And I haven't felt that in a very long time. But
yeah.
but my point is, at least now I notice. I
Mm,
knew what I was doing and I was
yes.
choosing
Yeah.
to meet their ego with mine
Mm,
versus not even knowing that that's not me,
yeah.
And so so I don't want to ever sit here like, yes, I just float around on a cloud and everything just kind of like magically happens. Um, some things do feel more that way, but I certainly still have my human moments and
Yeah.
but it's about noticing and
Mm,
also noticing the opportunities where I could soften,
mm,
and choosing how to navigate that. So,
yeah.
so yeah, I wanted to share that. I wouldn't be authentic if I didn't at least talk about how just because you have it figured out,
Yeah.
we don't.
Yeah.
We know that we just don't know more. It's that don't know mind. It's like now I know that I don't know. you
Yes.
know.
Right. Absolutely. And back then we didn't know what we know now, so we do what we do best. And I
Yeah.
think that's the most important thing about this kind of awakening process, finding the you inside you is observing, right? It's the noticing and observing and having fun and compassion for yourself when you find yourself in on the kitchen floor,
Yeah.
like angry and crying and pulling your hair out because your kids are like acting like maniacs or something like that,
Yeah.
right? I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm having a moment, right? I'm regressing. I am not this enlightened person anymore.
Mhm.
But we are all human, right? And I think having moments like that and really having compassion for ourselves when it's hard to look in the mirror and telling ourselves that we love ourselves, or we mess up and screaming at our kids,
Mhm.
or, you know, having hiding behind our old selves in a in circumstances that you're talking about where we just kind of regress to an old safe pattern
Yeah.
is is okay. And now we can make a different choice, right? That's how we break out of those patterns.
Exactly.
So
It's
kind of
go
I want
ahead.
to ask you, so based
Yeah.
on like the this journey of becoming authentic and being more of who you are, what inspired you to specifically be the authentic sales coach and have people learn about bringing in higher income or sell the same way as you.
So, it was also an unfolding. Of course, me being me, after I woke up, I was like, I want to quit. Let's move to a farm. Let's go. We're out of here. But my husband being more practical than that, I was the breadwinner in the family. And, we had to be a little bit more um I don't know if cautious is the right word or calculated, but just we couldn't just, we just had two little kids. So it had to be a little more gradual than that. And so I mentioned before, I did meditation coaching, and I'm still working, right? Like, and I did NLP, and I got certified as a Ho'oponopono teacher, and I did what was the other thing? Hypnosis, like just all these things, just playing. And, all the while, and I still do to this day, watching everything, reading everything I can about human potential in our brain and reality creation and energy, and just like got my PhD in that, my own
Yes.
self-proclaimed. But, it did reach a point where it was time to make some decisions, right?
Yeah.
And my very first coach, I was like, I don't know what to do. And I hear this so much with my clients. Like, I want to do, like, this is where my genius zone is. My genius zone is, in my case, it was like this, like, really authentic, loving, feminine approach to sales, right? And I know entrepreneurs need help with this, particularly
Oh,
female.
yeah.
Like, it's a huge hurdle, right? I was like, and I have this gift, but I have this passion. And that is like helping people wake up to all that they are, like helping them see the beauty that's inside them that they forgot. And my first coach was just like, why don't you do both? And I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Why don't I do that? And, come to find out, those, I don't want to judge, but those that are on that heart, that more conscious path in the coaching industry, there's certainly another path, and that's okay. Either they'll figure it out or they won't. But for those that are on more of that mission, that impact driven, that, like, I just want people to be free themselves, um, a lot of them are, they'll be like, I just want you to know, Jana, like, really what I want people to do is just really love themselves. And I'm like, you and me both, girl. That's all we're doing. We've got our front and facing, like, this is what we do, and this is how we get results for people, but we do it behind the scenes. We're really helping people tap in and connect and ground and learn about who they really are. And it's so funny. So many of us are, quote unquote, I wouldn't even say undercover, because I'm pretty vocal about it, frontward facing too, that I'm more than just your average. Like, I'm going to give you a sales script and, tell you don't take no for an answer, kind of a sales coach. But it's just, so many of us are that way, right? We have this gift that we want to share, so we do it through the lens of that.
Yeah.
But ultimately, we just want people to be happy.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. And there's so many women, and I know my audience for a fact are all looking for more of, how can I be myself and how can I improve things in my life, whether it's, deeper and more meaningful relationships, or it's a job that really fulfills me with purpose and passion. And that's really what you're talking about here.
Absolutely.
And there are so many women that I have worked with who usually come in for one reason. I have problems with my teenager, or I'm depressed and anxious. A lot of people kind of come in with that. I worked as a therapist for many years. Now I'm in a relationship coach industry, where really helping women to, ignite their own self-love, their own inner power, to create that positive influence on their partner. A lot of times it's not necessarily couples therapy that works, but if you can really shine in who you are, you're able to identify what you want. You're able to identify what you need and be able to verbalize that and communicate that with conviction and with love and with compassion. So what I'm saying is that a lot of people come in for one thing, thinking that they're looking for more money, or they're looking for a career, they're looking for a better relationship with their children. And at the end, they come out with this wholeness and this, oh my gosh, like, I can create whatever I want in my life.
Yeah.
Like I'm in charge. And a lot of them say, I didn't know I needed this, Trina.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know I needed this. And I'm sure you get that over and over again. And it's really being able to kind of scream out there in the world to say like, it's right here. There's a journey for this, you know, whether
Mhm.
it's Jana or it's Trina or it's, you know, anybody who can kind of show you that connection, the deep connection of self-love and honoring you for who you are, honoring you for this amazing, creative, spiritual being that you are. If you really get in and see all of that, then you can do whatever you want. And it sounds like that is what you're doing for your clients and your students coming in and learning kind of the whole package, the foundation of who you are and what you deserve and the brilliance, and then making that happen in the world.
Well, you can see how, I mean, it's all connected. And so if you can connect people with their power
Yeah.
and their authenticity and that love and worth, I mean, you
Mm,
can only imagine like that, of course, is going to translate into more success in your business.
yeah.
You know, you're not going to put up with certain things. You're going to hold your standards high. You're
Yeah.
going to feel good about charging, you know, whatever it is for your offer. Like you're not going to stand for people ghosting you on sales calls or, you know, whatever it may be. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, it's the classic, you know, you, for lack of a better word, you sell them what they want and then you give them what they need. Because if they knew what they needed, then they would
Yeah.
already have it.
Yeah.
And therefore, it's the symptoms of the problem that
Mm,
bring people into my world and into your world.
yeah.
And then the gift is, you know, so much more. But
Mm,
you're talking about relationships reminded me of a really interesting story. And one of the reasons I realized this was maybe a few years into my awakening, but it really made me realize like I think I'm on a different planet now than like even some of my friends that I've known for a very long time. Like sometimes, even though I'm still in contact with them, I love them dearly. Like
mm,
when you are operating at this different level of consciousness, you see things different. And one of the big things for me when I started doing the inner work is my marriage just magically got better.
yeah.
And so I would go to, and that wasn't even the intention. I'm just working on me, you know, and I would go to these dinners with my friends where they're like complaining for
Mm,
hours
yeah.
about whatever it is their husband. And it actually brought me to tears because, again, I'm emotional. But
Mm,
even back then, like this is early in my journey. And I remember telling them, I was like, they're like, what about you, Jan? I was like, turned, and I remember tearing up, like could barely get the words out. And I was like, it turns out the more I work on myself,
mm,
the better my relationships get.
yeah.
And I was like, so I don't really know how else to say that, but that's
Mm,
what I've found to be true.
absolutely.
And, you know, and that's just really, it's that whole inside out approach to life, you know?
Mm,
I mean, we can go all quantum on that if you want, but I mean, the bottom line is we don't attract what we want. We attract who we are in every
absolutely.
way. And so if we are self-love, people will show up differently.
Yeah.
You know, which is the
And that's
entire
true.
approach of Ho'oponopono. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but
I
that
am.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole
Yeah.
premise is,
Mm,
you know, I change myself and
yeah.
therefore things around me change,
Oh,
reflect that
absolutely.
change. It's beautiful.
Oh, absolutely. And I hear a lot of women kind of be in that transition of I have just awoken, or maybe been awoken for some time into this consciousness of, oh my gosh, I created my reality. I created all of this in my life. So where do I start? You know,
Mhm.
where do I start? And there's so much cleaning up to do that I don't even I don't know what to do with myself. So at that point, you just really have to um, go within, right? And recognizing that you are have elevated yourself to another conscious level. And a lot of people feel alone in that.
Mhm.
A lot of people feel, well, I don't have the same friends anymore, or I don't have the same things in common with my friends. And sometimes it happens in relationships. if you all of a sudden start growing, your partner may and may not follow that path with you. You
Mhm.
can influence it greatly. In my case, divorce was the only outcome of me growing. For most of my clients, they grow with their partner because they affect that change. So, for people who are listening and might be in that kind of transition of, Trina, I can't connect with people the same way anymore. Like, people don't understand what I'm talking about when I'm talking about, meditation, or I'm talking about this kind of enlightenment, or I'm talking to myself in the mirror. Like, people don't get me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what would you tell them about this transition of really embracing who they are, and they kind of know that journey feels right, but now they're kind of feeling alone and they're feeling stuck and they don't know how to proceed from there.
Well, I mean, I'll start by saying this path less traveled is absolutely the hardest. The shortest path, the path home to your heart, is the shortest and the most challenging and the most difficult, but also the most reward, and not like finance, all like just like pure joy, pure love, reward.
Mm.
But it isn't easy, like those first few years I mentioned this group of friends, like I was like, I can't be around you people anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be around you. Now I've found a way to honor their journey and I can
Mm,
be in those places, but it took time. Like, I really did isolate. And it's
mm,
still lonely. I mean, I'm so grateful that I have the community and my clients and fellow coaches online, because I don't even now
yeah.
have a lot of people in my actual physical reality. My husband gets it, and I suspect my kids get it to a degree.
Yeah.
But I don't have that. And
Mm,
so for me, I'll just share my own experience, was really going within and kind of having to have that cocoon
mm,
phase, and really having to release judgment around other people's journeys.
yeah.
And then once I did that, I felt I was more acclimated to go back in those situations.
Mm,
However, it doesn't have to be that way. You don't, it depends, because for other people, it's like, go get those yoga friends, go
yes.
meet those meditation circles,
Yeah.
because lucky for you, if you're walking this path now, there's a lot more of it than there used to be.
Mm,
And so you could probably find a lot of people to have a conversation like this
mm,
more than you would have 10 years ago. And don't discredit other people's journey, because they're also on their own journey. They also have their own higher self. Like,
mm,
don't forget, they're have every right to be here as much as you do. And you
mm.
never know, because I've seen some people wake up and grow within 2 years, that
Oh,
in the energy that we're in now, in this flux,
yeah.
um, that, took me 5, took me 8, took me,
Mm,
and so you never know. You can't really depict or judge somebody else's journey, but ultimately coming home to you and
mm,
keeping that as sacred and as top priority really as you can, is
mm,
going to be your North Star in that. Can
yeah.
I go hang out with those people, still feel that little bit of separation, but then
Mm,
walk away loving them and with gratitude, and maybe
absolutely.
even offering a little bit of
Mm,
extra wisdom or
yeah.
perspective?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Kid, do I go to that situation and they like want to party and like bring me into a lower vibe, then that's probably not where I need to be.
Absolutely. So it's really recognizing what's home for me. What do I feel comfortable in? Leaving the judgment, accepting people for their journey.
Yeah.
And this notion of being home inside of you, or finding home within you, I love that. And it's so beautiful. For many years, I was so homesick when I came to the US, because everything was so different over here. We don't talk about the same stuff. That your humor is very different over here. Um, the sports are completely different. No idea what football was, and the politics were talked about everywhere, and I had no clue. So it was really hard to kind of assimilate, and I was very homesick because at that point my focus was still very much on the external. Like my home fulfills me, right?
Yeah.
My parents, my friends, maybe the house I live in. And after starting that meditation journey and understanding how how pure you can feel in that unconditional love of really tapping into that, it's like you are one with everything. And regardless of me having people that truly get me around me, it's important, but in that moment it's not, because the universe really has your back, or the
Mhm.
source or God or whatever you want to call it. And it's a shift in your belief or your focus on understanding, well, your home is here. And what I have been missing my whole life has been my home, right? It does not get fixed by other people. It does not get fixed about where my location is. So I can live and go anywhere I want to go because I bring me and I can bring my authentic self. So I think it's really beautiful, and it's a beautiful reminder for people listening of how you can step out of feeling lonely and recognizing that, you are attracting and resonating your energy with like-minded people. So they are going to come into your life, and the people that really want to take that journey with you will stay in your life. Like you're not going to end up weird and lonely just because you're starting to speak a new language inside of yourself and externally. So
Yeah.
there's some patience, there's love for yourself, trusting the process, right? I'm sure you've done a lot of that as well. And
Well, a
then we're
couple
here.
you brought up a couple of things that I just jotted down because um, the more you walk through this journey, at first it is because your ego, you're like working out so many of these things, and it's going to feed you stories of being lonely and nobody understands. And that's, like that isolation cocoon sort
Yeah,
of phase. But eventually, if you keep going, it's the butterfly, right?
yeah.
So it's really hard to feel lonely when you know you're connected to everything.
Mm,
And
yeah.
so it's just getting from one to the other, that period that can feel that way. And I really don't feel that way anymore,
Mm,
and that I think that's why I can. It's like my cup is full. I can go play in this vibration. I can go
yeah,
up here and play in this vibration. And I can always come home
yeah.
and play in my own vibrate, like in this is so, like be in my own space and just be. And that's
Yeah,
enough too.
yeah,
And it's the fullness. It's the
yeah.
fullness on the inside
Mm,
that really takes you, it doesn't really matter. It's like the
mm,
eye of the hurricane. You're just
mm.
in the middle. And when you can operate from that space, it just it's interesting. The things on the outside just don't matter quite so much.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I think it's important for people to really have that patience with themselves and know that it's so doable. It's so possible,
Mhm.
you know. Jana's done it. I have done it. We know people that we have been inspired by that's done it. So if that awakens something inside of you, just do something today. So what is something that you would advise people to do if again they're kind of they've started the journey, they're out there, they're making changes, but they might feel discouraged, or they might feel still a bit lost and a bit stuck. Like what would be one thing that you would recommend?
Well, first and foremost, if you're listening to this far in, then this is resonating with you and
Yeah.
this is for you.
Ooh.
So really trust
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's something I remind my clients of quite often, like, because they're like, I don't know if I can do that. Like, maybe this isn't good. And I'm like, you know, that bigger part of you, like the all-knowing part of you that knows the beginning and the end of how this is all going to play out, and, you know, whatever else you've done, and all that, that's the part of you that's called you. You know, that's the part of you that's maybe even brought you to this podcast and this conversation and kept you. So if that part of you, this grand, higher, you know, however you want to look at it, part of you, bigger than your human skin suit, is calling you, trust that at the end of the day, it knows far more than your ego's ever going to know. And it loves you unconditionally. Whereas your ego's job is just to keep you safe and small.
Yeah.
So follow that nudge. Keep following it. That path will only lead you to more love, more joy, more excitement, more aliveness than you could ever possibly feel otherwise. So just trust is really like surrender and trust that voice. And I'll say one last thing. It can be challenging because it's softer and far more gentle than the ego. So know that. It's just how it's designed, you know? And so really just trust.
Wow. I'm getting a little hypnotized by you now. I'm like, oh, Jana, bring more. This is so good. I'm like, I'm just going to sit in a meditation right here and just like,
okay, let's go.
listening to you. And I hope you guys listening to this feeling the same love and the same authenticity from Jana as I am. It's just such an honor to be here with you today. So how do people find you? I'm sure people fall in love with you every day and say, you know, I want to work with her. I want a dose of that. I want more of that. I want to learn this amazing, you know, 6-figure blueprint that you're offering.
Yeah. So I'm on all platforms, and my website is The Authentic Sales Coach. So I'm really easy to find. And, you know, I would say I'm most active on Facebook, but you can find me on all the platforms. And that would be really a great way. And if you go to my website and you want us to connect, like there's ways to contact me there as well. So, which is also The Authentic Sales Coach.
Great. Excellent. Well, it's been such an honor and a pleasure to have you here today. Any final words of wisdom, anything you want to give the audience at this moment that is still hidden in your heart?
I just keep going.
Keep going.
Just keep going.
All right. You guys, thank you so much for being here with me today, Jana. Jana, I keep saying Jana.
I've heard it all.
All the versions
matter to me. But no, thank you
my
for having
sister.
me. I love this conversation. Thank you for, you know, giving me an opportunity to explore a different side of, you know, how this all correlates to me and how I serve, because it is so much more than, you know, what we have on our storefront, you know, inside. And so I just appreciate it, because from one beautiful soul to another, just love seeing somebody else shine their light. So thank you.
Thanks, Jana. All right. Until next time, I will see you guys soon.